So I will call to order the meeting of the Concord Housing Development Corporation. It is now 5:03 on October 28th, and we need to take a roll call vote of those members who are present. Peter Lowett.
Present.
Yanni.
Present.
Jim.
Present.
Lee is here as well, and we're expecting Doug to join shortly when able. All right. Any other preliminary matters, Liz, that you can think of? Nope. All right. Go into agenda item number 1, financial reports.
I presume that is me, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, actually, the information that Liz sent out talks about October 1 and the amount of payments that went on during that time, or at least that was the title. This morning, however, I did the same thing October 28, and the amount of money we have at this moment, cash available, is $141,063. The expense that was spent during October up to this point, $15. There's almost nothing happening or had been happening, unlike the previous month in which we actually spent a fair amount of money, but which you have that information in the information that is sent. So basically, there's been probably no activity in October. Probably there may be a little payment they may come in the next day or so that would change this, but it'll be pretty small based on the kind of information I've seen in the past. So there's money there. It hasn't changed very much at all since last month.
All right. Thank you.
A motion to accept the report? If so, I'll provide it.
Do we typically vote on that, Liz, or do we, it just goes in the records of the corporation? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, so no vote needed. All right. Any other items in the financial reporting category, or are we on to minutes?
No, are you following along with the agenda packet?
Yes.
And you can see that there's the financial reports, and then there's an updated budget, which is just for your information. But there's also the June 30th financial statements from the accountant. So those do need to be reviewed and accepted.
This is our first financial statement with our new accounting firm, correct?
With the new accounting firm, right? So if you're looking at that, I can walk through it. Would you rather me do it in screen share, or do you rather do it yourself on the side?
We can screen
Could you
share
put it on the screen?
Okay, I will do that if I can.
Is that a problem?
Nope. Let's see. Whoops. Whoops. Okay. Well, let me just get that. Where is it though?
You had it a second ago.
I know I did, right, but I've lost it. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay.
Well, I read through it, and it had the, no material defects. Everything looked okay. All important paragraphs. So that's what we call usually a good sign.
Yep, they did. Oh shoot, sorry. I don't know. I'm having a really hard time with this. They did a really good job, I thought. It's a little bit clearer, the reports from prior years. Let's try that.
Here we go.
Okay, so that's the whole thing, right? That's all I could get. So we could zoom down here. That's the year-to-date activity. Oh, there's the year-to-date activity by category. Here's Jim's report that he talked about. There's the budget. And here's the financial statements, right? Okay, so let me just get you so I can see you and the reports all at the same time.
Before we go on, I neglected to say that this is also the annual meeting of
Oh, thank
Concord
you.
Housing Development Corporation.
Right,
Not that it changes how we're going to proceed, but just for the record. Sorry.
okay, right. And then this is what always happens when I screen share. I forget to do, like, the people waiting in the waiting room. It's kind of a lot of things going on here for the host. All right. So we have Stefan just joined, very good. And then maybe Doug is on his way in as well. Okay, let's just try that. There we go. Okay, here he comes. Hi, Doug.
Hi.
Sorry to have left you there in the waiting room a little too long.
That's all right. I got a little confused, but I'm in now.
Okay, very good. Nice to see you.
Doug,
Nice to see you and everybody else.
Okay, there we go. So we're just looking at the financial statements from the new accountant as of June 30th. And this would be looking for a board acceptance of them. So, so here they are, the contents. This is Scheid, Dignan, and Brown. So they are here in West Concord. I'm not going to read all that, right? Now let's just see here. So we have cash. So this was at the end of the fiscal year. Restricted cash. So this would be monies from 930 Main Street that are awaiting the sewer. You can remember that that the sewer was part of the overall budget, but hasn't been spent yet. There was $50,000 in the project budget for that. And so this is monies that came in from some of the other sources that are restricted for that. And then we have the development cost, the 105, this is the Junction Village, and the not for development, this is the Baker Avenue land. So that's the asset portion of the balance sheet there, or the statement of financial position. And without donor restriction is really the cash in the bank account, and with donor restriction is all this other stuff. So that seems pretty clear, very simple. Here's the statement of activities in those categories. So these all balance out to the transactions that you've seen through the bookkeeper on a monthly basis, and they all tie out. It's pretty simple. Here's these categories. So there was some discussion that we had with the accountant about how to categorize the house, and he wanted to, he offered that it really should be a donation, that the CHDC donated the house to Habitat. And that seemed appropriate. CHDC had just purchased it with all transactions in it, whatever it was, $500,000. And so there it is, donation of the house. There's the
just for the record, we're referring to not the house at 930 Main Street that CHDC acquired and then donated to Habitat for Humanity.
That's exactly correct. Thank you. So we have program services. The insurance is broken out here this is the insurance on the Junction Village land there. So that's broken out into program expense and filing fees for that versus supporting services, which is just your administration. So that's kind of a tighter breakout than we've seen in the past. And I don't think there's really anything to review here. And you can see here by the title that this is the Concord Housing Development Corporation and affiliate. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but the Junction Village land is held by CHDC JV LLC. And so that is now more prominent as the affiliate of Concord Housing Development Corporation. And here's some notes and basis for accounting, and you can read that. And some of these are the same policies that the CHDC had with the old accountant brought forward. So here, this is it, restricted land, and this is this for the costs incurred. Here's the Junction Village property. And no costs were incurred for this whole year. And then that's continued, and this is a little bit more about the Junction Village land. And then we have here for the 930 Main Street, Junction Village, and Baker Avenue that we talked about that maps to the front page of the financial balances. And here's a note about the CHDC JV LLC. And so there's a little bit more clarity, as I say, than we've had in the financial statements in the past. And I think that that's really,
Motion
assume-
to accept from Peter.
So moved. So moved. We have a second.
Second,
So discussion, I'll just clarify that we haven't recognized any noticeable discrepancies between these financial statements, our monthly financial reports and prior reports. Is that accurate?
oh, yeah, that's a question. I thought that was just a nice statement to make. We have not noticed any
Confirming.
discrepancies, yes. And have balanced them to all of the statements and worked closely with them. And they really take all the data from the QuickBooks, from our bookkeepers, and it was a very smooth process, different than in years past. So I think
That's
that
good to hear.
from the staffing perspective, I think that the reports are more meaningful, you know, to you, and you can tie the numbers easier to your bookkeeping monthly reports.
Great. Thank you for taking us through that. Any further
Thank you.
discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll need a roll call vote on the motion. Yanni?
Yeah.
Jim?
yes,
Doug?
Yes,
Peter?
Yes.
Lee? Yes. Thank you. All right. On to the approval of minutes.
So moved.
second,
Moving to approve the minutes from September 16th and September 10th as a combined vote. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Do we have a second?
second,
Any further discussion? I noticed one typo in the September 10th, item 1, Jerry Evans, just a misplaced apostrophe. Not a big deal, but subject to that, all in favor of accepting the minutes? Yanni,
Aye, yes.
Jim,
yes,
Doug,
yes,
Peter?
Yes.
Lee is yes. Thank you. All right. On to agenda item number 3. Again, this is also the annual meeting of the CHDC, and among the items that we need to cover is election of officers. You'll recall that we've lost Jerry Evans. I'll just read off what we have in place right now. President, myself, Treasurer Jim Burns, Clerk Yanni, Vice President Jerry Evans. We've got Peter and Doug as directors, and I think, bear with me 1 minute. No, I'm nuts. All right. Computer system just crashed. Liz, I think there are more of us who are also named directors. Is that right? You have that in front of you?
You mean in terms of the Secretary of State report, that
Yeah.
one? I think that, yes, you're president. Oh, I don't really know. I thought I just did you as just president and not in there twice as president and also director, but I could be not doing it correctly. Do you think that you serve both titles?
I believe so. Sorry.
I assumed that if you were a president, you were also a director, but I might be mistaken on that.
All right, just system's a little slow. All right, as constituted, they're just showing Peter and Doug as directors. But my recollection is that every board member was also a director.
That's the way most organizations operate.
Oh, really? Okay. Let me just, nope, that's not it. This is the thing that we're talking about. Do you see that?
Yep.
I think it's just like a limited screenshot there. I'm trying to find our greater annual report.
No, this is it really. Oops, sorry. So these are the titles and the individuals. So I didn't repeat each person as their title and then also director, but I can do that because I'm based on your voting today. We're going to do this new report because this is due on the 1st of November each year for the
Right. I mean,
corporations.
that my recollection is that each board member is also a director, hence the board of directors.
Okay.
So to the extent we need to clean that up,
Mhm.
Liz, I can help you with that on the Secretary of State side. But
Nope, not a problem. I can do that. Easily.
okay, so then as far as election of officers, do we have any volunteers or requests for change of office? Seemingly we'll need to fill the slot of vice president having been vacated by Jerry. Were you going to say something, Peter?
I was going to say, fools rush in where angels fear to tread.
Is that a volunteer?
Yes.
Would you like to put your name in for nomination as vice president?
Certainly.
Nice.
Second,
All right.
moved.
All right. Well, Doug moves that Peter Lowett be elected as vice president. I will second that. Do we have any further discussion? All right, roll call vote to elect Peter Lowett as vice president of the corporation. Yanni?
Agree. Yes.
Jim?
Yes,
Doug?
Yes,
Lee votes aye. Peter?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Welcome aboard. Thank you. Does anyone want to seek election for any position that they do not currently hold, or anything at all? Leaving it wide open. I'm hearing no comment. All right, so could I hear a motion to re-elect as president Lee Smith, treasurer James Burns, clerk Yana Tsitzits, and just while we're at it, for clarity, each member as a director.
so moved.
The second,
Second.
any discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Yanni?
Yes. Agree.
Jim?
yes,
Doug?
Yes,
Peter?
Yes.
Lee votes aye as well. Did we cover all the positions, Liz?
Yes, I was just looking at the articles of organization for the CHGC, and it's a chairman and vice chairman, each of whom shall be members of the board, and a secretary and treasurer who need not be members of the board and who may be the same person. So that's just what it says. But yes, four positions. And that's all they say about that. Great, thank you.
Thank you. While we're maybe discussing corporate matters, do we want to just get into the LLC?
Yeah, I think that comes next on the agenda anyway. Right. Oh, no, it was really the select board goals, I think was the next thing, but sure.
So just for everyone's benefit, the property on which the Junction Village property will be developed is, as Liz mentioned, owned by a separate legal entity, being a limited liability company. Its formal name is CHDC-JV LLC. Liz has made an effort to go through our corporate records, and it appears that they could use a little freshening up. We've also been in touch with our attorney, Marianne, and she had a few recommendations. So my request would be to ask the board, well, I take it back. Well, all right, to ask the board to delegate authority to me to work with our attorney to make any updates that might be necessary or appropriate for the operating agreement and corporate filings for the LLC. The sole member or owner of the LLC is Concord Housing Development Corporation, if that makes sense. So they're effectively a subsidiary of CHDC, and CHDC controls all of the decisions and actions of the LLC.
So moved.
Right.
Second.
All right. Any discussion or questions? All right. Hearing none. Yanni,
Aye.
Jim,
Yes,
Doug,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Lee votes yes. All right. Thank you for that. And I'll report back at our next meeting exactly how that shakes out, and with an update, and we'll circulate the operating agreement.
Good.
Are we on to number 4, select board goals?
Sure.
So,
Do you think that I should share the screen for this?
Yeah.
If I can figure out how to do that. How about that? Is that, I don't know why. Okay. Am I screen sharing?
Yes.
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 readable.
Okay. Okay, very good. So I think this came up. Peter suggested it, and probably Peter came to that suggestion from the chair breakfast he attended.
That's correct.
So, and Linda's on our call, and she could even talk to the goals if she wanted to. And we can just go through them. I'm just going to talk through. They have a section on values and guiding principles, and you can read those. And then they have specific goals and objectives, a section on specific to COVID-19 pandemic. We can see some of that work and attention that the select board is doing. And then they have a section on effective governance, board organization, and communication. And so this is, you can see right here, here's this one right here. So that's right up there in the goals. And we have this other part of Junction Village with the open space. So that came right under effective governance, board organization, communication. So really important for the town, as everyone knows. And I think that there's some other great goals that are here. Financial stability, and we're all glad they're attentive to those items. And we have balance, equity, and diversity. So here's, this is the building permit surcharge and the transfer tax to continue to advocate for those on this special legislation. There's here for this is the legislative side of the senior means tested property tax. So here's putting in a warrant article for Presumably, this would be another free cash article. I think that's what I would read into that.
Can either Peter or perhaps Linda expand on that goal at all?
So perhaps Linda would be the best. The recommendation at the chair's breakfast was that each of the committees review the select board's goals and familiarize themselves with them, which is what we're doing. But Linda could expound on that.
Sure, I'm trying to turn my video back on for you, but not having much luck here.
It's on.
It's,
Oh, no, it's done. We can see you.
Oh, okay, good. I would just say that in terms of Envision Concord, the town's long-range plan, there is a commitment, and also following up on the Affordable Housing Funding Committee that met a couple years ago. We're following up with at least the goal of another warrant article for appropriation because we anticipated that it was going to take a couple years to work through the transfer fee article that the town previously approved, as well as the building permit. We have talked to Senator Barrett's office, and there is some progress being made, at least on the building permit home rule petition. It's not likely that the transfer fee home rule petition will go through in this state legislative session. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. So similar to the prior year's
Appropriation that the. town meeting-
500,000 of free cash.
Yeah.
Not that that'll be the number, but
No, but that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linda.
yeah.
Thank you.
Are those all the ones that are particular to affordable housing and CHDC?
Nope, I think there's one more here.
Yeah, a couple more probably.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is provide input to the housing production plan. This might be a goal ahead of its time because the housing production plan, I think, is not going to start till next year. The funds are being requested now. But I think that when that time comes forward, this would be to be involved and engaged in that process. And maybe that's it. Just quickly. look
I
through
see
Number
here.
the reference to the TIF in economic vitality number 6.
Oh, yeah, very good. Yep, here it is here. So that's 3 goals specifically on the Junction Village. That's really, and then here we have, this is the the StarMet site is also part of here to propose next steps. So that's the work that Jim and that committee is doing that's going to come forward to the select board. And I think that's it. So I think affordable housing seems very well represented in the goals, and I want to extend my thank you to you, Linda, for that, as well as your whole board.
Right. I think our whole board should applaud the select board as a whole for the breadth and diversity of all these goals and putting them forth. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, certainly informed by a lot of the work that you're all doing.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Linda.
Great. It's a good set of goals, and it's a lot to get through and to work on together to get that list. So good job. Yeah.
Right.
You
You
don't
want to
mind-
push number 5, schedule to the end, so we can stick to our SEMSID since we're seemingly on a bit of a roll. Is that all right?
Sure.
All right, so we'll go into initiative updates. Junction Village project update. Can report that we've had a few video meetings with the developer to plot a path forward towards a closing. The primary outstanding item on our end is further development and finalization of the ground lease, which is in my court. I owe some additional revisions to both Walter and to town council, who's agreed to help us with that. Liz, do you want to speak to any other elements of
Sure.
it?
Sure, we put together this, roadmap to closing, the 5 major areas to focus on. So the open space is a big piece. Based on the last meeting of the CHDC, the Places, which is the name of the engineering firm that's been hired. So they're ready to start. They're going to have their surveyor out next week and looking for a sort of a kickoff meeting. And so Marcia Rasmussen from the planning office and myself will support. And I think that it would probably be a good idea to have someone from the CHDC, be the liaison to the open space effort and including the engineering firm. So I was wondering whether that might be something that, there's someone here who wants to do that.
Maybe our newly elected vice president, who's got some experience in these matters, would be interested.
That's right. Get me while I'm doing my other business. Okay. Could you repeat that again so I know just exactly what you volunteered me for?
Well, so we'll work with, it's already we, I just want you to know, we will work with Places to do the site work for the open space. So part of it is to support the town committee that's being formed, but not really to be on the committee per se as a design, development, entity, but to work with Places to do the baseline conditions, mapping out the existing features on the site, the meadows, the big trees, the access, helping them to, the critical overlap would be to identify the allowable uses to put in the conservation restriction. And at that point, and then having that set, and I think that there's in the baseline conditions, that's really a formal title with capital B, and Mass Audubon has some requirements for what the baseline conditions needs to look like and contain, so that they would be putting that together, which really involves defining at some level of detail the land under restriction.
But I think, Liz, what we're asking for is just a representative from our board to be the face of that effort, and then certainly decision making would come back to our full board to the extent necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Sound right?
Yeah.
Why is Mass Audubon involved?
Hmm?
Why is Mass Audubon involved?
So they have the requirements for the baseline conditions. So I don't think they're involved in the organization, but they have articulated these requirements that feed into conservation restrictions.
Just as sort of guardrails or a guideline?
I think so. Maybe Lee knows, maybe Peter knows more about that.
So I guess that brings up the question, we're going to continue to own that section of land, and the holder of the conservation restriction needs to be an unrelated third party, and either it hasn't been discussed or I can't recall who would be the holder. Would it be the Concord Conservation Commission, probably, right?
I thought it was the town, actually. I thought the permit gave it to the town.
Yeah, I think that's right. So yeah, I know with other examples of conservation restrictions, this baseline documentation, it's exactly that. And I don't know if Mass Audubon was the originator of those standards or what go into it, but that's just one element of the form of conservation restriction that the state will need to approve.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with doing some of these, and Leah's too. I'm doing open space restrictions at Devon's, and we have to meet some of the state requirements for that. And the inventory would be, if there's any natural heritage, endangered species habitat, within the area, you know, we sort of want to know where that stuff is up front, so we could avoid it with any of the open space uses. You know, riverfront setbacks probably need to be marked on the map. It still allows uses within it, but yeah, if they're wetlands or large specimen trees, that's what places would be putting on the baseline conditions map. So yeah, be happy to represent the CHDC working with them.
Perfect, thank you.
So this is the particular condition, and this is like the comprehensive permit, so it's condition number 36 right here. This is what it is. It's the baseline documentation of the restricted land to be conducted in accordance with Mass Audubon's Massachusetts Conservation Restriction Stewardship Manual. That's what we're doing. So that's the specific thing. Does that provide the reference, Doug?
Yeah, if you cut and
Yes,
paste and email me that, I'll start doing my research.
Yeah. So
Yes,
I also,
it does. Thanks.
yeah, sure. I also wanted to mention that for the home funds, what the first step to committing those funds is an environmental review, and that we've almost finished that work. That work's coming out of our office. And in fact, we just had to send letters to all the tribes in Massachusetts to see if they had any interest in the parcel. So there's a very detailed oriented HUD process that you have to follow. So that will be of use to you, Peter, as
Great.
well, perhaps.
Thank you.
And places will do most of this work. So they're really just looking for some oversight. And so at the kickoff meeting, as I say, Marcia wants to be there, you'll be there, and I'll be there.
Okay.
And I'll send you really what it is, I think is what you want is the RFP scope for the place's work.
Okay.
Thank you,
Liz,
Peter.
can you invite me to the kickoff meeting as well?
Sure. So it's going to be on site. So, you know, we'll be, you know, whatever, get your boots on and, you know, whatever.
Great.
And anyone who wants to come, we can make that more general, if that's helpful. So that's the open space. And the home funds, that's what's really going on now. We talked about the ground lease and yeah, so I think that Walter's working on his part. He's really continuing to line up his finances and the people who are financing him. It's you know, times are uncertain, right, between the election and COVID. So it's a hard time to, you know, it's not like a status quo, like everything's the way it always was. So hopefully he'll have some certainties around that come the end of mid-November, end of November. He got an extension for his comprehensive permit, and he had some conservation filings to do. Oh, look at that cute kitty. But anyway, so things are going. We've set up a monthly you know, get together to just try to stay in touch and make sure that things are on track.
Nice.
I think we hit all the
That's good.
things. We want to talk about the project update, the operating agreement, and the open space and the rep. Yes, very good.
Thank you. Jim, any update on 2229 Main Street?
Okay, that's me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, like there were a couple of things that I wrote that were in the information that Liz sent out. But basically, we have what I think is I have a problem, and that is that we've not been able to really satisfy Gary for being prepared to meet with the select board sometime in early part of the next year to provide a a few activities or a few things that that the committee has decided are appropriate, and so that the committee, not the committee, but the select board could decide what to do. I emailed him a couple of days ago a question where I was wondering when there had to be a decision between, can you build, shall we think we can build a housing at 2229, or should that decision be, no, you can't? I mean, that was just a question I asked him. And what came back was a clear statement that he needs more information from us. And I'd like to read the last part of what he sent to me, because then I'm going to have a request. And that we said, I think we are all waiting for you and your colleagues to lay out a map of the key issues. The key issues he defines are risk communication, phasing, affordability, footprint, etc. And if you recall, we spent some time talking about information that we were going to provide or did provide to Gary for a couple months ago, I believe, and that's been going on. So it means to me that we haven't really been able to satisfy what he's trying to do, what he needs. And I have to say, it's not clear to me precisely what he means either. Therefore, my request is to ask Peter, who's now a vice president, maybe he won't talk to me because he's now vice president, if he could take a look at this and how would he interpret what's been said? Because what we need to provide more information to Gary, and I don't quite know, when I look at what he said, I don't quite see where it fits in. But I do know we have now one person in the committee who's actually created a facility that works, and that's what we're trying to do. And I'd like to have a little bit of assistance, from the vice president. And I can pull that information together and I suppose perhaps send it to anyone in the committee. But really, we need to have a better understanding of what Gary's trying to do. Possibly it would be better had I sent out this to the committee, some of the information that he sent to us, I mean, as a member. I'm not sure, but I would like to try and have a little bit more understanding of what it is that we need to do for him. And I find what he said to be true. I'm sure it's true. I'm not being critical. I'm happy that I sent him something and he reacted very defined in a clear way. I've had conversations before where it was ambiguous to me, and I think maybe to a couple other people who read what he said, what he wanted. We need to clean that up. And that's really what I want to say. It's a gap there that we've not been able to fill. And we need to fill it, and we need to fill it sooner rather than later. And so.
Are there some deadlines coming up, Jim?
I'm sorry?
Are there some deadlines coming up or milestones for?
Pretty soon. I don't have a solid date. Sometime after the first of the year, he wants to meet with and go through the process with the select board about this is what we think will work and what do you think? The date at one time was just around right after Christmas or so. It may have moved out a little bit, and I don't have that date right now, but it's
The dates for you giving information to him.
That's right. Well, no, before that, we would have to give it before that. He will need that, I would say probably maybe the first or second month of the year. We have to give him something by the end of this year, in my opinion. I've lost somebody. Are you there? Is someone there?
I think we're all here.
Okay,
Yeah.
You went black and I didn't hear anything. I mean, you didn't, I mean, my signal went black. I'm sorry. So
is this, a lot of this stuff is about risk and communication issues that we sort of raise the perception that it might have to be addressed before we can really get solidly behind locating affordable housing in that location. Was that, is that what he's trying to clarify?
I believe so, yes, right. Yeah. So if I send you some information, can you work
Yeah,
with it?
I'll work with you, Jim.
Maybe that's not appropriate of me to ask that question. I don't know if that's violates the laws or, you know, of sharing
We
information.
can share
or
it
not,
with
but really that's
the
my
whole
request.
group. We're being
Yeah,
asked to.
maybe it's worth a conversation with Gary, just to make sure we're all on the
I'm
same page
sorry,
about.
your voice was shattered.
Can you hear me
Pardon?
now?
I can hear
Can you hear
you.
me? Yeah, I was saying that maybe it's worth a conversation with Gary to just get a better understanding of what it is exactly they're looking for, and then you know, whether it's a smaller group or entire group or a combination, we can put together what
Okay.
we need
I will-
to.
Oh, that's a good point. I intended, if this would work out, would be to talk with Gary to indicate that we're going to try and have one or more people try and understand what he really wants. So
Yeah.
that's fine. I will deal with that. I'll deal with him.
All right, I'd be happy to talk to him just at the outset, just to see where we need to go, and then if Peter's willing to help or anybody else, that assistance would certainly be welcome.
Okay. So in any event, I'll get back with him and point out that we're going to take some action some way or another, and that you'll be talking with him. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Peter, were you going to say something?
I was just trying to clarify Gary Kleinman. That's it?
Yes.
Okay.
Who is he?
Well, he's one
He's
of the,
the West Concord neighborhood board, and now he's on the 229 Main Street group.
Yeah.
Planning board.
He was chair of the planning board for a number of years, and then also led the Envision Concord Master Plan Initiative. So he's done a lot of planning for Concord.
he's quite effective, actually,
Mhm.
quite effective.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. I'll report back, maybe through Liz or directly, just to stay compliant with any open meeting law issues, and we'll take it from there. But sounds like we got some work to do in the relatively short term. So thank you for that, Jim.
Well, I wish I had a more positive result, but at least we'll be taking action, and then we will get a positive result.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, should we move on to 930 Main Street?
Yes. Okay, let me just get my packets out of order here. So there's a lot of material on, did I put the small grant on the agenda? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I just did it the wrong way. Yeah, okay. So, so the last 40-something pages of the packet are the LIP application. So it's a good thing that we're meeting virtually, so we didn't have to copy all those pages for you. So it's a big packet, and this is going to the select board also next Monday. And you can see on page 2, if you're there, it's like PDF page 40 from the whole agenda. But the LIP application has 2 signatures on its front page. One is from the chair of the select board, and one is from the chair of the local housing partnership, they call that. So that would be you. And so that this just ensures that the project and the package is locally supported on its way into DHCD for regulatory approval. So it's a lot of paperwork here. And so what you'll see is that the permit is there. So Habitat was issued its permit for the duplex. So that's really good news. Until then, they always wanted to have the duplex, but wasn't really sure whether the planning board and the zoning board were going to authorize that. So they have the full authorization of that. They have some conditions to be made to satisfy prior to occupancy, but they're able to move forward. Also in the packet is a lot of information about the marketing of the units and their pricing and all of that. And that's very standard habitat program that complies to the state requirements. So I wasn't really going to go through any particular part about the packet. You could look through if you had any questions about it. And it's really to vote to support, and then Lee will sign the page and it'll go off to the select board for their signature and then off to the state after that.
So perhaps we should vote to delegate authority to me to sign the documentation related to the local action unit application.
So moved. Peter?
Second,
Any further discussion or questions? All right, Yanni,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Doug,
yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Lee, yes. Thank you. All right. You want to say anything else about the project, Liz? Are we good?
They're hoping to really get started right away. They're hoping to get the sewer work done, the street work done before the, I think it's a 12/1, break for the winter where you can't open the street. And they've been impacted by COVID as well for their volunteers and some of that, but they don't think that the work, they don't have to do any real framing because, the house is already there. They're just doing the internal, renovations. They will have a curb cut. So it'll be a circular drive, which is good. And they're going to be chopping down some trees. And there's still a question of, there's a tiny piece of the garage that's on the state land. I think it's like 6 inches. So still talking about whether the state would sell that whole parcel to the town or whether they'll just grant a permanent easement to Habitat for that little bit of land. So that's still in the works, but everything else is exactly as you knew the project to be. It's just advanced to this next level of detail.
Great. Great, thank you.
thank you.
Want to move on to the small grant?
Yes. Okay, let me get that. Okay, so this is, I learned how to redact in PDF doing this, by the way. I'm sure you'll want to know that I know how to do that now. So this is someone who sent this at the end of June, and they had some problems getting estimates, and I, on your behalf, gave them a little bit of extension with the COVID. Some of it's hard to get the contractors out. People have some sensitivity about that. So it took her a little while to get that. So she sent me this nice letter explaining her request. And then this, if you're looking through it there, it's the Concord Housing Foundation. Well, here, why don't I share my screen? That's a little bit better here. Share, right? Where are we here? This Concord whatever, I'm mixed up here. Concord Housing Foundation newsletter. All right, so here we go. Let's start at the beginning. So here's their application. So it's a deed restricted property, and they are requesting funds for this construction area. So they have some external work with some rotted clapboards and some issues with their stairs. She wants to remove the front, close the gaps, seal the front, replace the front with cedar boards, paint the front of the house, and replace the door. So she provided this, and it was funny because it had this Junction Village progress report. So this is November 2017. This is the Concord Housing Foundation report, and they, where is it? It's like Like
There
the
was right there.
Oh, right, one humorous glitch, right? And this is her house, right? So it's all about, it was a prefabbed house and they were installed and then it didn't really fit. And so they had to, they saw to the overhang and put a new front on, right? So she's like, well, it didn't really work that great. It didn't work that great. But anyway, so it's interesting that they had this article right here with the Junction Village. So here's some pictures. You can't really see exactly the issues. I mean, you can see a little bit down here of the window and some of the issues there. Here, there's some wood there. There's some, like, you can see the rotted here by the door. This is not the only request that you've gotten from this development also. These condominiums are, going on 20 years now, and so that they're wood framed and so that they would have some sign of where, and here's some more pictures. So she has this estimate. So it's higher than your amount. So she would pay the difference and she puts in her money first. And she had some other estimates, but they were much higher. So I only included this one in the package because this is the one that she would take.
Wasn't that guy from Falmouth?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. So I think he does work in the area. He was able to come up and do the estimate.
Great.
So she applied prior to the reduction in the grant amount. At your last meeting, was it the last meeting, maybe the meeting before? There was a time during COVID that the board didn't meet and then came back together and then reduced the grant from 5,000 to 4,000. So she applied and she was late in applying and she applied still under the 5,000, when it was 5,000. So it's really up to you. One, whether you would, hear her application and approve it, and whether you would approve it under the old 5,000 because that was the, how she was operating, or you would do it to 4,000. And I want to say before you talk about this particular request, there is another one coming, an emergency request for someone who bought a affordable unit in Concord, I'm going to say 2 months ago. And since then has had a number of issues in the house, even though it had a home inspection that they didn't surface, but needed a repair, a substantial repair to the heating system, and had contractors there all day to repair that. And they will be coming, I think it's like about $3,000. So they're going to be coming for an emergency repair to you soon. And what I did not include in the package, which you could, is how much money have you spent this fiscal year, right? Well, probably none, because it's only just been the beginning of the fiscal year, right? Let me just see. There were 2 applications that were reviewed by you earlier. One has been withdrawn. It was I don't know if you remember, it was a kitchen that and other parts of the house that needed a tremendous amount of repairs, and she hadn't been able to get good estimates. And the other was air conditioning, which you didn't approve. So you haven't, for fiscal 21, you have not approved any applications.
What is our budget for this? 30,000?
Well, you had 20,000 when you reduced to $4,000. So that would be, 5 applications, or, yeah.
Do you recall what date we voted to reduce the maximum grant award?
I'm sure I can find that. I think it must have been in the minutes that we just reviewed, right?
I think it was prior to that. My only point is I just want to make sure that her application was in fact received before we made that vote.
Yep, let me get that. Oh, you might be right, sorry. Let me look over here. Yeah, so this was the August 13th meeting, and you reduced the budget from 30,000 to 20,000 and reduced the maximum grant from 5 to 4. And that was August 13th,
And when did she apply?
June 30th. But she didn't have all of her estimates in. So she sent that memo to me, but it was an incomplete application. So let's just see, when did that last estimate come in? Does he have a date on that? So he has a date of August 12th on his estimate. So I don't know, that's the day before, right? So I'm not sure what you want to do with that.
Well, should we first discuss the project itself and then decide how much, if any, we want to award?
Yeah.
What do folks think about the project?
It seems to me to be a worthy project. I can't imagine the effect of taking a larger second floor and sawing off parts of it to fit it onto a first floor, but she has documented some of them, I guess, and they make sense to me. It seems like a worthy application on her part. Whether or not it's 4,000 or 5,000, I don't know. My inclination is if she applied before we changed it, that she should be entitled to the run up to 5,000. But if it wasn't complete, and if it was complete a day before we did it, then it was complete before we made our decision. So.
Agree with Doug.
Anyone else have any thoughts or comments?
I guess I would think $5,000 is appropriate for what's going on there.
All right. Yanni?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, my only thing is for how can she do it so she doesn't run into the same problem in the future, but I guess I don't see enough. I mean, that's not my business anyway, but yeah, I'm okay with it. Because the way it was built, it looks like it might be the same rotten wood unless they unless they put some metal on the bottom of there before the door so the snow or whatever doesn't pile with, and it has like an incline so the water can drip out. But anyway, that's construction material. So I'm okay with the 5,000. If she, if everything she did was before we changed it, yeah, I'm okay with it.
All right, entertain a motion to award $5,000.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
No.
All right, hearing none. Yanni?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes,
Doug?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Lee votes yes as well. Thank you. All right. So I think we just have left future meeting schedules. And I want to ask if there's any public comment. Are there any other matters before I do that? All right. Is there any comment from the public? Liz, are you the only one who could see hands raised or that type of
Is
thing?
that right? Yeah, maybe so. So there are two people, maybe you can't see them. So Stefan Bader's here and he just unmuted, so maybe he wants to talk. And Wade Rubenstein is here also.
No, I was just going to say, no, I don't have any comments or questions, but thank you for acknowledging the League of Women Voters Observer, and happy to hear about the progress on the Junction Village Fund. Thanks.
This is
Thank you.
Wade Rubenstein. I'm the observer from the Finance Committee, and I really have no comments. Happy to be here.
All right. Thank you. Welcome. All right. Let's cover upcoming meetings. Seems like we got a lot on our plate, at least in the short term. What's this? You want to try to meet before Thanksgiving?
Sure.
Yeah.
Does this 5 o'clock slot still work for folks? Is 5:30 better? Or any other time better?
I like 5.
I like 5.
5 is
All
fine. Yeah.
right,
Yeah, works for me.
okay. And are Wednesdays still good for folks?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Well, I don't know for me. Let me just look. I can't, I'm gonna have a problem that the 18th, I won't be here, which would be the logical Wednesday. I don't think we want to do like the 25th, right? So,
No.
and then the, the 11th seems like it's,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
What about the 23rd or the 24th?
Of,
November? 24th?
no,
That's a Tuesday.
I could do that.
yes, I'm fine with that too.
I'm okay with that too.
that'll work.
So that's still less than a month away, maybe give us more time to get some stuff done.
So did you offer the 23rd?
I'm available the 23rd or the 24th.
I can do the 23rd.
I can do the 23rd.
I can do 23rd too.
Okay,
As do I.
perfect. Well, thank you.
23rd at 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
All right, and the next chair breakfast is November 18th. Do I recall correctly that Doug had volunteered to do
Yes.
that?
Yeah, I
I
think
have
I
that.
put it, I think I put it right in the agenda.
How do I get the Zoom
no,
info
I
and
didn't.
all that?
When it comes out, I'll send it to you.
Okay. And it's similar format as this, they're just more people and,
Actually, I've never been, so I don't know.
Yeah, they try to keep it to an hour, and it's each representative from all the various boards and committees across town, and they're really just looking for an update of anything relevant that our board is doing. And if you'd like, you and I can chat with Liz to talk about what that might be at that moment.
that'd be great. I'm happy to do it.
Appreciate it. All right, any other business? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
All right, Yanni,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Doug,
yes.
Peter,
Go ahead.
he said yes. Lee, yes. Liz, thank you as always for all your hard work and
Sure.
help,
Thank you, Liz.
Yep.
yes, okay.
and we'll be in touch.
Great.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Right now,
Be well.
You go back.
indeed.